All right, Mikayla. Thank you for meeting again with me today. Before we begin, I know we talked last time about confidentiality a little bit. I'm just going to briefly go over it again. Of course, anything that you say stays between you and I. I do share with my cohorts in my class, but if there's any reason to believe there's, any intent to harm yourself or others, it's something that we would discuss before I needed to tell anyone, or if there's any suspected abuse to children, elderly, or person with disabilities. Again, that would be a conversation we would need to have before moving forward. It would need to be addressed. But do you have any questions on that?
No.
Perfect. So how are you feeling lately? I know we talked a little bit about some feelings of anxiety and depression last time, but how have you been feeling since we last spoke?
So I forget probably when we did our last session a couple weeks ago. At that time I was feeling a little bit better. Today I went to work and I've been super anxious all day, and just the past few days I've been really on edge. I think I told you about before briefly that I'm orienting a graduate nurse, and how I was excited to do that, but yet there were also a lot of challenges with it. And lately I've noticed that, well, first of all, today her and I decided that I may not be the best preceptor for her, and it was a mutual, like, this is not working. We had different learning styles, we had different teaching styles. And I think a big barrier for that is also my anxiety. And that's something we talked about today, because I know I can be a very anxious person, but when it comes to getting stuff done and at work, I tend to be very focused. But lately I've been very anxious. I'm starting to get stuff ready for moving to Atlanta with my boyfriend next year. I'm for once not anxious about the relationship. I'm very anxious about the move. I really don't want to go to Atlanta. It's not a place I see myself living, and it's not really a place that I see myself being happy. So I just have kind of been working myself up with that, and that anxiety has been affecting me physically, mentally, in all kinds of different ways, and I think that may be transferring over in me precepting this graduate nurse, and I think I've been trying to take on too many things, but also a big conflict of personality with that nurse is also a big issue as well. It's kind of like both kind of systems, both of us.
Sounds like a lot that's going on right now. You think of a lot in the future, a lot that's going on now, so it's a little overwhelming. But how does it feel having that conversation with the nurse? I know that was a big, it produced a lot of anxiety for you the last time that we spoke. So now that it's kind of a little cleared the air more so, how does it actually make you feel?
Well, yesterday, I was with her yesterday, and a little bit of background story behind that was she had to work at 9 o'clock. She was working roughly 9 to 1 o'clock. And she told me she would be leaving early, but she didn't really tell me exactly when. And the why part doesn't matter. It's more so for her safety. If she's in the building, I need to know she's here. If not me, someone. Someone needs to know. So there's an emergency and we look for her, like, we need to know who's there and who's not. So I knew she was coming at 9 in the morning, and that was fine. And I gave her a full patient assignment, or not full, but a couple patients, just like she's been taking. And we did have some really, really, really sick patients. And I kept telling her, like, hey, you need to get up, you need to do this, you need to do this. And she just kind of moseyed around, took her time. And we also had a couple patient issues. Like, I almost had a patient code on me, aka die, or lose their pulse, because she was too slow and wasn't really listening. So I had to step in multiple times and try to direct her, and it just didn't work. So she saw it as me being anxious, trying to do it too much, and I saw it as, you're an emergency room nurse, your job is not necessarily to be anxious. She's not as anxious because she's very calm no matter what, even when she should be more like adrenaline rush, get stuff done. She doesn't have that. So it's just a very big personality. She gets nervous, she gets frustrated seeing me run around and doing 10 things at once, but I see that as my job to prioritize and do a bunch of things at once. And I get frustrated the fact that she just kind of moseys around and does what she wants. But the big issue is yesterday, she just got up and left. She told me she was going to leave around 1 o'clock-ish, but she didn't let myself or chargers or anyone else know that she was going to leave. She left a mess. She didn't chart anything on her patients. So last night I was really bothered by it. I spoke with my dad, who happens to be visiting. He decided to come in town for Father's Day and visit. And I spoke with my sister, and even my boyfriend Dan's mom, because she's a nurse. And I was trying to think of the best way to do it, because I know anytime something happens, I feel like there's always two sides. Like, I could have communicated something better. It's never just one person's fault. So she told me that, she told me she was going to leave, but she didn't tell me exactly why, etc. So I went over and I spoke with her about my concern for the patient's safety. And she said, well, you had me try to do too much at once. And I told her, well, you keep wanting to try to do more. So we had to find that balance of what she can really handle, because she keeps trying to do more and more and more, and not what's realistic. So we had that big talk. But we both kind of had a mutual agreement that we just have a big personality clash. She sees me as like run around to do too many things at once. And I'm a great teacher and a great educator, but I do everything in my head. I don't really have a system, like an organized system that works to teach someone else. Like, I can just rattle off the vital signs, the names, and the date of birth, and everything for my patients today. I have a photographic memory, and I can do it. I can just do that. And I love teaching, but perhaps we learned that it's best for me to get someone for her that's more organized and can baby step her every single way. Though she also doesn't like the baby step kind of thing. It's not in my nature to micromanage someone every little inch. So I don't like to micromanage, but part of orienting a new grad is you need to be really good at that micromanaging, and that's something that I'm not really the best at and I don't really enjoy. So we just had a conversation that it's not really working. And it's been affecting me, this frustration from taking care of her, the teaching the past few days has just been affecting me mentally, physically, in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, that sounds extremely irritating. I can, you say frustrated, and it sounds a little irritating that you can't teach the way that you want to teach, but everybody has different learning styles, so it's good that you can have that conversation with her and, be open and honest about it. I know sometimes when I ask you a question, we kind of go into a lot. Is it okay with you if I interrupt at some point?
Absolutely.
Just to kind of address everything. I don't want to miss anything from the beginning of what you said to more so the end of what you said, just to be a little more thorough. Okay. So you also mentioned that you're having a little bit more physical symptoms of the anxiety. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So I've been having a hard time focusing, clearly, right now with my rants and you asking me questions. A little harder than last time even. I've been having a hard time sleeping. Sleep hasn't been the best for me always, but I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sweating, and have to put an ice pack on the back of my neck and lay back down and go to bed. Focusing that my diet has changed. I, for example, just ate something. I ate something around 6 p.m. and I normally wake up effortlessly with the sun and eat 5 small meals a day, or 5, 6 small meals a day. And today I barely ate anything. My stomach has been in knots. And ever since yesterday, when I was so frustrated for her for just leaving, and even though I can handle all that, just leaving me, and the way I felt, and that anxiety I felt from the frustration, and this isn't going to work, and having to backchart and all those intensive care patients, I was having chest pain, and shortness of breath, chest pain, just basically, from my knowledge, all the hallmark signs of anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I even took a Xanax to calm me down, and this is post-Xanax, and may not be working.
And how did the Xanax help you feel at that time, or what were you feeling besides physically, like emotionally, anything in order to take it or feel the need to take it, or was it mostly physical symptoms?
So I was prescribed a low dose of Xanax years ago, and I have it just in case, just a comfort amount. If I need this, I have it, and I haven't taken it in like a year. I haven't had one like a year. So I just was from work. I was very anxious. After that conversation, I know that later on tonight I had to write an email to my boss, letting her know, that we need to think of another plan. So I was just very on edge and anxious about that. I tried to lay down, put the ice, I took a hot bath. I went for a walk after work, tried to lay down, put an ice pack in the back of my head. I tried to watch one of my favorite little shows that I watched, and I still was just that tightness in my chest with that shortness of breath feeling. I was like, I knew it was anxiety. So I just took a low dose of Xanax, and then it passed me up for a while because I never take it. And I still woke up like, talking about it, bringing it out. I felt calmer before I came in, but now kind of talking about it is riling up that anxiety and frustration again, which is good to talk about things, so that's okay.
Yeah. Is there any other words that you can use other than anxiety for like how you actually were feeling at that time? Or I hear mostly physical, so I didn't know if there was anything you were thinking about or that other like emotions that were associated at that time.
I felt like a failure for sure for taking on this task and feeling like I couldn't do it. But at the same time, I kept trying to justify to myself that you're not failing her. Failing her would be to not acknowledge your differences, not acknowledge when something's working and keep pushing through with an unopportune situation that could result in, things not working out. So I kept trying to mentally justify that. But the word failure, disgrace, pretty much failure kept popping up in my head of what is your boss going to think? I really wanted to get acknowledged at work and push myself because I love to teach. But that whole, you failed, you can't do this, kind of self-belittlement just started kicking in. Like, oh, maybe if I was more patient, maybe if I was more organized, maybe if I was this, if I was that.
It almost sounds like your mom talking to you in your head when you say the belittlement, because that's something we talked about before, and your mom's kind of silent belittlement. Always, you can do this better, you can do this better, instead of, I did my best, I did what I could do. It didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It didn't work out this time. So
that's actually a very good point. And I've always, anytime I feel like a failure or feel belittled, I can be really hard on myself about stuff like that. And that could be related to how my relationship with my mom or how I was raised, especially from women. Because I don't get that from men. I've oriented other men, and like when I work with men, I don't get that feeling the same way I get that from women. And my boss is a female, and she's a female, and I know that's strange, just the female, but I didn't have that female figure growing up, and that actually could be related to further enhancement, feelings of belittlement, not being good enough, and that's definitely something I've always been very sensitive to my entire life, even though no matter how much I try and I do things, I always, things don't feel quite right. I always feel belittled and like a failure.
yeah, I can see that's a little bit how your mom would talk to you and things like that. So I think that you've always said you've had an issue with women and making those relationships and things like that. So I was just curious if that was giving you a little more feeling from, you know, what your mom was giving you when you were growing up, and if that's kind of reflecting in some of the relationships you have now, because she's your boss. She's somebody that's above you, and it's kind of like how your mom was. So it's definitely something to consider, something to work on. But I just want to briefly ask about you said something about your sleep has always been a little bit. Is there a time when you remember it not being an issue at all, or?
I feel like it's been like that ever since I worked night shift. Um,
So not always, just
it's
more
more so the past like 3 years.
Okay.
So ever since I worked night shift, for some reason I've just been having some issues sleeping. My body would never still really seem to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten different beds. For the longest time, I actually slept on an air mattress for 3 years because I would sleep better because I could adjust the pressure for my back. But I feel like part of that is just, I feel like part of that sleep could be anxiety because I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning in the middle of the night. And I've looked into that a little bit before, and they say it could be related to that when your mind is racing in the middle of the night. But who knows?
Yeah, sometimes you can't sleep because your mind's going a little too much, or you can't quiet those things down. Have you ever tried like meditating or doing kind of just trying to quiet the mind as much as possible before going to sleep at all?
I have a little routine. I think it was more effective up north because it was colder. But I used to always take a super, super scorching hot bath before bed and drink hot tea. I would open up my windows and let the cool air in and sleep nestled under a blanket mound. And I always slept so well. I sleep very well in a cold environment, and moving in Florida too, that's probably a big part of it. I just can never get my room in my house. And my sister, who I live with, doesn't like anything below 72. For 70 is the lowest I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But when she's not home, I tend to sleep a little better because I can lower the AC to like 62. So I need a very cold environment. That will help me sleep better. But sometimes I still toss and turn if there's a lot in my mind.
And then 3 years, say prior, you slept pretty well, or?
Oh yeah, when I slept back in New England, I slept great all the time.
It's great. So, what do you think changed? Just your high demand and your stress, like in being an ER nurse, that's a lot of anxiety and stress, and you're probably contemplating about patients throughout the day and things like that. So,
Yeah.
life situations. You think that's just contributing from excess stress, or what else do you think might have changed in the last 3 years?
I think it could be from excess stress. It tends to be especially when I work a bunch of shifts in a row, which I have been working a lot of overtime. My grandmother was ill a week or two ago, and I had to take a last minute trip to go see her. But I think excess stress definitely could be related to that, for sure.
Is there anything else you could think of? Or you think that's?
No, I was gonna say I've been trying to go to bed earlier, but also living downtown too. It's with the noise of downtown. Sometimes it's a little hard for bed to fall asleep as early as I like.
So is it the environment, or is it you can't quiet your mind?
Probably a little bit of both, because that's a good question. It was quite interesting because I went back to Boston last week, and I heard my grandmother was really sick. And even though she was sick and she ended up in the hospital and in the ICU, and she's now like in hospice, I slept like a baby up there, which was very strange. And the very interesting part about it is I am the calm one in my family. So between my aunts, my uncles, my mom, I'm the calm one in my family, which is absolutely crazy to me. Kind of scary. So when I went up there, I took control of the situation. I was not stressed, even though it was a very stressful situation. I was the one that put her in the hospital. I was the one that I didn't even call the ambulance. I just loaded her up in the car and drove her to the middle of the night, and they rushed her right back because she was pretty unstable. But I was the one that managed all that, and I stayed with her at the bedside for like pretty close, like 24, 28 hours, and then the next day 48, and I was there for a long time with her. But I was not stressed, and I slept really well. That was something that was very strange.
It sounds like you kind of took control of the situation, of everything that was going on. You just kind of like, I got this. You did what you needed to for her and did what you needed to. Do you think that kind of helped? There wasn't any worry about anybody else, what needed to be done. You kind of took it on, and so that kind of just gave you a sense of, I got this.
Yeah, I think even though she was sick, the sense of control and knowing I did the right thing. And even when I had that at work too, having that control, which is strange to say control because I don't really like to control. I don't like to micromanage and I don't like to control others. But I like to have a sense of control of my life and the choices I make and how they impact others. So even when it's at work and it's crazy, crazy busy and very stressful, if I feel like I have a sense of control and I'm managing things, I can handle whatever comes in those doors. And I don't take it home with me. But I feel like if there were poor outcomes or something bad happened, I could have done something different. The team could have done something different. I kind of take that in. So it's just very interesting to see a family member dying and know that I'm cool, calm, and collected, and I was not stressed at all. That was very strange.
That sounds a little strange. You think it'd be a little different, but like I said, you had it. It was nobody else's, but you were doing it. So I'm wondering. It almost sounds similar to like when you were orienting this new nurse, and she didn't tell you when she was leaving. You didn't have any control over, what she was doing or things like that, and that provoked a lot of anxiety for you. Do you think that could be a little theme?
That definitely could be very much related. That and in general, even as I said, like moving to Atlanta, the unknown with that. I love going new places and trying new things, and I love the unknown to a degree, but the unknown of I don't know where I'm going to live, I don't know where I'm going to work, that kind of can produce a little anxiety. Because I feel like I don't have control over that. And even though it's so far away, it's just, what am I going to do?
Yeah, it's scary when you have to kind of just go with the flow when you're used to like being in control. But it's good that you can make that connection though between, work, family, your relationship, moving to Atlanta, and things like that.
Yeah, my personal life is when professional and career wise, I like stability and I like to have some sort of organization and control. But as far as vacation and my free time, that's probably could be why, because it's the complete opposite. I just book random trips out of the country. I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really know where I'm staying that night, and I just show up and just look for a place and figure it out. And I never get stressed over that. So maybe that's how I look for so much control in other aspects of my life that are more permanent, work, career, relationships, or most of my aspect of relationship. That my personal life, as other stuff, is much more spontaneous and unplanned. It's like an extreme.
But it's, life is a balance, so you find all this control in some aspects, and then when it comes to like vacations and trips like that, you enjoy the spontaneity of letting go a little bit in those times in your life. So I wonder if there's a way we can find for you to let go a little bit more in those times that you need control that's contributing to that anxiety. A little more just self-talk of like, it'll be, let it be, it is what it is, instead of beaming a little too hard on yourself or, things like that when it doesn't go your way, or taking a step back if you need to, kind of thing.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And that was another part that was hard about orienting her too, I think, because I'm pretty flexible with a lot of things, which is, I know, like I said, it's so back and forth to say I'm controlling, but I'm flexible. I like to have a sense of control in myself, but like I said, I don't really like to control others. So I saw that she learns by making mistakes. So I can't really let her completely make that her learning strategy for an emergency room because you can't necessarily learn what you do wrong by putting other people at risk. So that doesn't really work. But I tried to modify, I lost my sense of control and I let her kind of orient herself and modify things, but I may have given her too much control and not retained enough for myself and not only caused anxiety, but kind of lost that, not power over her, but that kind of preceptor, that leadership role over her where she was trying to lead me. And that's not exactly what plans. We should be working together to see what works and balances it out.
So what if you, in that moment, had let go and let her kind of take a little bit more control, even though it's not, like you said, it's supposed to be more like collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had let go, how do you think it would have made you feel at that point?
I did that today, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So she told me that she needs to just kind of be left alone and she'll come back to me when she has questions. And I let her do that. Which makes me nuts because I can't sit still. I always need to move around and do things in 100 miles an hour. So I sat at the desk and just did paperwork and helped other nurses and just like sat on my hands and did I gave myself more like a charge nurse administration role and let her go do stuff. Which I noticed that she did a lot better when I was not there and was not around trying to teach her and show her things. She was slower, and that's okay. But she was able to focus a lot better, which is another reason that probably made me feel like a failure because it's making me realize, like, okay, it's not just her, it's definitely me too.
It's not you. You just need to let her do that, you know.
So we just do things completely different. And sometimes I care too much about things that I get too wrapped up in it. And I care more. I let myself care so much that it wraps me up versus the other nurses that she oriented literally didn't care. They said, well, she's a registered nurse. If she makes a mistake, that's on her. But to me, that's not how I believe in teaching someone.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in giving them that independence and freedom to do things, which is I've given her the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I see something that could be detrimental to someone else, I like to kind of intervene. I don't say anything in the room. I'm like, hey, when you get a chance, can I borrow you? And I like to go over it with her. So I guess she didn't like the fact that when I found stuff that could be of risk or concern, she wanted to just figure it out on her own, which didn't really work for me. But other nurses let her do that. So that worked for her.
Some people learn a little better the hard way.
Yeah.
Even though the hard way in your career could be, you know, detrimental to somebody's health or well-being. So
That's definitely a concern of mine.
it should be. It's your nurse. It's part of your career, you know.
Can still go after that. Whatever you want to do.